Okay, let's get started. So, I hope you enjoyed your lunch. Healthy, nutritious, tasty. Okay, that was the starting job. Okay, let's welcome the principal lecturer, Mikael Soini from Metropolia. And his talk is actually trends in health tech. But this sounds a bit about the same as the previous Ville Koistis, but the view is a little bit different. So just a moment, I have to let's pause that one. Okay, so and then this one again. Do I have it somewhere already? No. There, yes. Okay, so Mikael, sorry, so trends in health tech. And yes, there. Basically, the point of view is a little bit different. So this morning on the Ville Koistis lecture or presentation, the point of view was more, global. What is happening now, which reflects, of course, the future, and then very high-tech things, and even visions like that mobile healthcare center coming to you, or mobile virtual doctor. Okay, but anyway, stage is yours.
Thank you. So, trends in health tech is the subject for this lecture. So maybe there's a little bit overlapping with Ville's presentation, but I think we can manage with that. So my point of view is technology, and I will present some kind of future trends, or maybe not future trends, but things that are happening today. So from the technology point of view. So I'm a principal lecturer in Metropolia health technology. So we have bachelor degree program in Metropolia and also master's level program. So it's part of the information technology program. We have specialization towards health technology. Maybe I will give a couple of words related to this Master of Engineering program in the end of the presentation. So there is some trends related to health technology. You may be aware of these already, but I hope some new things also you will get some new information also. So there is 10 bullet points, and I will give you a couple of examples about these. Of course, these are just some trends. There's also some other technologies that are used in today, but there's a limitation of 30 minutes, so we have to maybe stick with these. So this is the outline of the presentation also. Are these familiar with you? So how about your background? Do you come from technology, health or social care, business? How many is from business? Technology, health or social care, some others. Service design, or yeah. Okay. So as you know, it's nice to have this kind of people around that are from different kinds of fields. So as you know, health technology solutions you have to take lots of different aspects into consideration when you are doing solutions to healthcare sector or social care sector. So it's nice to have teams that are building and understanding these aspects. So readiness for digitality. As a 10 years experience of this field, there has been, I think, significant changes in readiness to take digital solutions into use in health and social care. And that is maybe one of the most important things in this when you are developing solutions for this area. Because if the users are not willing to take those solutions into use, there's no point of developing anything. So I think this is a positive thing. And also these digital services are becoming more general in everyday living, online banking, online shopping, and online healthcare also. And especially online healthcare services have generalized quite rapidly in the last 2 years. For example, in Helsinki region, there has been lots of different kind of applications and solutions taken into use in the maybe last 2 or 3 years. So there is a rapid change in this area. And also the digital services bring new customers into the services, but there's also, you have to remember that some may be dropping out because of digital services, so you have to take these into consideration. And I think the usability is the key to all in here, so you have to develop solutions that are usable for everybody. So the data is increasing very rapidly. There is a couple of images from IBM. For example, they predict that medical data is expected to double every 73 days by 2020. So every 2 months, the data is doubling. So that is a very interesting feature in this area. And this other image shows how much data we have during our lifetime. So the clinical data is 0.4 terabytes. And that is very small data compared to genomics or exact genome data, meaning, for example, activity meters and data you are collecting all the time to your cell phone and things like that. So this exact genome data is 2,000 times. There's more data than this actual clinical data. So this is also one signal of a changing world. So there is lots of other data available that should be used, for example, for treatment than just clinical data. And they are also expecting that this clinical data is only 10% of influence on outcomes of treatment. So that is, I think, there is similar kind of figures from different sources, but I think this is the message that the clinical data is not enough to make treatment as good as possible. So we are combining this clinical data with other data. Maybe we are talking about well-being data also added to this actual clinical data. So the increase in data is also very challenging because it is almost impossible to utilize by humans because there is so much computing capacity needed. And already today there is lots of data that is not utilized in any way. in social and healthcare. We are already collecting data, but utilizing the data is in very early stage. So this kind of machine learning or artificial intelligence is one solution that could be used in this data analysis. So the machine will analyze the data and provide it to humans, for example, doctors, to make better decisions in treatment processes. So the machine will be this kind of physician's assistant in the future. And this is not far away from the future. This is already in use in some level today. So there is one example of glaucoma, that is a disease that erodes optic nerves, that is usually related to high eye pressure. So there was a study where 88,000 fundus images was analyzed by a machine, and the success rate or reliability was 95% to indicate increased eye pressure only with these images. So that is quite good reliability. And if one human could study these 88,000 fundus images, it would take a lifetime at least. So it is impossible to do this kind of analysis by humans. There's also lots of other examples about this artificial intelligence already in use. But the idea is not that the machine will do the treatment, but only give information and do some kind of help to the doctors. Because, for example, there is medical research of millions of pages that doctors cannot read by themselves. That's a fact. So this kind of machine learning can be used to help those doctors. Of course, doctors will always make the decisions. I think that this artificial intelligence is one of the most interesting fields in the future also. So we have lots of data, and it's coming. The more is coming. So, and we are dependent on different kind of electronic systems. So that is also a threat. For example, data security. Maybe you remember the case last spring, and there has been other cases as well during last year where ransomware were used to lock data files. This was also affected to NHS, that is the National Health Service in UK. So they were also victims of this ransomware. The ransomware is a kind of virus that locks the computers. So the hospitals were not the direct target. It had a major impact on those hospitals. So patients were directed back to home, appointments were cancelled, ambulances were called back, etc. So this kind of viruses can have a large impact on our systems. There was no knowledge of data leaks, and maybe the thing that you have to take data security seriously and make the updates and things like that. So robotics is also one of the most interesting things in healthcare and social care. There have been lots of pilots in maybe last 10 years, but now today there is, for example, many hospitals are already using this kind of robots you are seeing in this picture, doing the logistics. This is an example case from San Francisco University Hospital, where 25 autonomic robots were taken into use. It was a $6 million investment. 30 less staff members were needed because of this investment. And they are practically delivering food, medicines, linens, and lab specimens. And they are moving automatically inside the buildings. There is some technology, Wi-Fi, IR, ultrasound, and camera used for navigation. So this is maybe the early step for robotics. So they are used in this kind of manual labor. And this can be used in this kind of tasks that are planned ahead, or they can be used in ad hoc if there's a need to make some kind of delivery. And this is not the only hospital that is using this kind of trolleys. There's also many other kind of robots used in social and healthcare. That was one example of that. So information systems is also always interesting thing, as you may know. There's a large robotic project in Helsinki region, $400 million or euros project to develop a new kind of information system. But anyhow, there is tens of different kind of systems nowadays in use, and also tens of different kind of processes and tens of different kind of units that are kind of overlapping. So we are always in situation that the data may not be in single information system. So one interesting solution to deal with this is software robotics. So the idea is that a software robot is combining information from different systems. And this is also already used in today in Finland. For example, in Tampere, there's a 150-200 daily radiology statements every day, checked manually by different specialists. And software robotics is used in this to do this manual labor. And they have been quite satisfied with this kind of solution. And there's a robot can check 40 patients' data in 90 minutes. And there are special cases only under 2%. That means that human must do some kind of interaction. So robots can deal quite nicely with this kind of manual tasks. And they have also a couple of pilots in Helsinki and Espoo doing, for example, nurses research planning. Internet of Things. So the idea is to connect different kind of devices or different kind of information to one system and be able to use that information. This can, for example, be used with artificial intelligence. So this artificial intelligence needs some kind of information. So this kind of Internet of Things can be one source of information. There's one goal that is to develop hospital processes and safety, and you can use different kind of sensors, and these are used already today. So simple examples, for example, temperature and humidity sensors are doing automatic environment monitoring. Once again, reducing the manual labor done by nurses. Or hospital beds and some medical device can be locationed, or locationing can be done in real time. These kind of systems are used in many hospitals already today in Finland and other countries as well. So the idea is to decrease search time, losses, increasing device utilization rate, doing the real-time inventory also. It's unbelievably big figures if you are talking about missing devices in hospitals. And these kind of systems can eliminate that kind of also economic losses. And also staff and patients are follow-up, increasing safety. So these are quite simple examples used some years already. Of course, there's different kind of mobile and sensor technology. You probably are aware of those, and I could give you lots of examples, but the idea is that you have these mobile applications. You have many mobile applications available in different kind of app stores, and also different kind of sensor technology measuring different kind of things. For example, these kind of activity meters. I will give you one example related more in this healthcare sector, because usually these kind of apps and sensors are used in this kind of everyday products, but this can also be can be used in healthcare. So there is one example that these kind of activity meters and mobile apps are used to collect information about every day. So how many steps you will take, what is your sleep quality, and things like that. And this kind of information is combined with the treatment process. And I think this is one interesting example, because as we saw before, there is lots of unused data available from everyday life. So this is one good example where this myeloma treatment is all myeloma treatment. There is combination of this kind of everyday data that can be used to develop treatment processes. So I think that's one very interesting feature if you are developing different kind of solutions. Try to combine these kind of technologies. And self-care is a big trend and will be a bigger trend in the future. There's lots of digital devices available. They are quite inexpensive in price. You can buy different kind of sensors for maybe these are costing about 10 or 100 euros. That is quite low cost, because the idea is to get people from hospitals to home to make this kind of self-care. It's very expensive to be at the hospital just for measuring some kind of blood sugar level or something like that. You know that the cost of 24 hours in hospitals can be hundreds of euros. So it's quite short return on investment on these kind of devices. And this also gives possibility for patients to understand their treatment process and understand the diagnosis better because they can see the measurement results by themselves. So the idea is to empower patients to take care of themselves. And obviously there is different kind of pros for other stakeholders as well. And this economic issue is not the very small thing in this. So of course the idea is to reduce costs, as you know. But of course the measurement itself is not enough. As you know, if you are just doing some kind of measurements, for most people it's not very useful data to know your ECG every day or knowing your blood sugar levels every day. You need to develop some kind of services on top of that. So technology without any kind of service is not very functional in most cases. There is also different kind of new devices from medical sector coming that are, for example, they're smaller and cheaper. These are a couple of examples for high pressure, fundus monitoring, ECG that are available today. So these kind of new devices gives possibility to develop new kinds of services. So because they are not location dependent, you can take these kind of devices anywhere. That helps to develop different kind of solutions that can be used not only in hospitals. But of course you need also this kind of bigger machines. This is one example of MRI imaging. But also you can maybe do them a little bit nicer than usual. This is one nice example of children's hospitals. This is from UCSF also. And virtual reality is one hot topic that is kind of in the very early development phase. If you are looking at different kind of medical product manufacturers, most of them have something related to virtual reality, but it's maybe in very early steps. But maybe in 5 years these are more commonly used. Here is a couple of examples. You can use virtual reality in different kind of solutions. This is used in teaching purposes, like this, learning human anatomy. You can also develop different kind of gaming solutions with virtual reality. This is an example of a pain relieving solution. And augmented reality is also one solution. So you can bring information easily available, for example, in hospitals when doing surgeries. It's not so easy to use these touch screens. It's maybe easier to use virtual reality and give the information. This is one practical case from Helsinki home care, social care, where virtual services is is used in elderly and handicapped care. I think this is quite a nice example because technology is very, very simple. It's just video call. And there's a long process when developing this kind of services, but it's nice to see that these are now not just pilot project, but already used in real world. And of course, the idea is to replace part of the physical visits with virtual visits. And for example, goal for this year is that over 10% of home care patients are in virtual care. That means 900 patients in health. So it's nice to have this kind of becoming more general. Of course, you cannot do everything in virtual, that's for sure. But some kind of visits, it's easy to replace. For example, ask, how are you doing? Have you eaten your lunch or something like that? That's easy with the virtual service. So there's over 20,000 contacts per year. And there's this kind of virtual center in Helsinki where there are different kind of nurses doing this virtual service. So there are different nurses that are doing the home visit. And of course, one obvious reason for this is also the cost that is 10 times lower in virtual visits. And you also always should remember that taking this kind of very simple solutions technically, but these are major changes if you are thinking about the services and processes. So it's important to understand that these changes takes time. And also in this case, there were some problems at the beginning, but when people are getting used to this kind of services, it's easier to accept new things. There's also virtual rehabilitation. This is a pilot project in Helsinki also. So the idea is simply to provide physiotherapy services to homes. Same kind of idea than in the previous example. And this is a case from Helsinki University Hospital. It's a mielenterveystalo that provides open, reliable data for mental health. And this is a quite old service. I think it was 2009 that this was first taken into use. So this is maybe one of the first virtual services used in Finland in this healthcare sector. So one idea is also that they will provide reliable data for all. Because as you know or may not know that the Wikipedia and Google are the two most common sources for finding medical data. So this kind of service also provides this kind of reliable data. And there's quite many visitors, over 1 million visitors. Limit was marked in 2016. There's also net therapy for adults that is rapidly increasing also. And there are lots of other examples about this virtual rehabilitation. These kind of gamification ideas are involved in most of these cases. So impact on costs, that's important thing. You always have to remember that if you are developing some new solutions, it must be cost effective. It must be cheaper than the previous one. Of course, quality must be at least at the previous solution, but the cost must be lower. But this is quite difficult to tell what is the cost and how much you save using some kind of solution. It's a very, very difficult question because you usually have to use something before you can tell the actual impact. And you have to change your processes and things like that. So it's very hard to estimate beforehand. There is one study made at University of California, Davis. There were quite many consultations, almost 20,000 involved in this study. And there are some kind of numbers that were gained. So for example, 9 years time was saved because of this teleconsultation. That means about 4 hours on average. And also direct traveling cost about $150 on average. So these are quite clear figures that tells about the impact on this kind of new solution in healthcare. Okay, I think I'm finished. So any question?
Questions? We still have some time for 1 or 2 questions. Comments?
So if there is some engineering students and you are interested about health technology, I think you could apply for our health technology program. The second round will start next fall, so the application period is after New Year.
Yeah. So keep that in your mind. Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's a short question. You mentioned about robotics in senior care. Any good examples, for example, people with dementia, memory disorders, stuff like that. Have you come across any good examples of service for that?
Yeah, you know the Paro seal, yes. Maybe that's one. You know the Paro seal? It's this kind of a seal-looking like animal that have multiple sensors inside, and it reacts when you are touching it, and there is some results on that will help as a one part of treatment. But there is not very many of those in use in Finland, for example, maybe 10 or something like that. So maybe they are not used very much, and there's different kind of bingo robots and things like that that are playing bingo with the elderly and things like that. But there are maybe this kind of pilot projects, more or less. So you are buying something, then you're using it maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, then you are putting it to the closet, and that's it. So I think the main thing is to understand the world you are doing solutions and providing solutions, understand that world. And of course, if you are taking some new stuff into use, you have to change something. You cannot just continue with this similar process with the new technology inside. It's terrible. So you have to think, how will this solution change the processes from the user's point of view. So.
And what kind of into the well-being of people with mental issues?
Sorry?
What kind of technology?
So the last word also.
Mental health.
Mental health. Okay.
Usually technology drives people mental, but yeah, it has an effect. But on the opposite way, you're healing.
Yeah, that's one interesting question, because can you provide virtual services? Because that is one of the most bigger issue for mental health issues are the technology itself. So it's kind of difficult to provide some services virtually. But that Mielenterveystalo is one kind of platform providing information and also providing net therapy. And I think that's the most common in Finland, at least.
Well, I have gone through their website, the Mielenterveystalo, and
Yes.
Actually it's good. We were doing this project where I don't know the kind of modules. So my group was supposed to improve the website.
Yeah.
In terms of increasing the body. So when you look at the website, it's just like information.
Yes. Yes.
Just too much information, and then in the same website you find information on kids with mental health issues, then parents, then young people, and it's not well focused. So in my own opinion, I think that may not be the best platform because it is just information oriented,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it's also labeling oriented because it will ask you questions like Mika Baiva similar on.
Yes.
But like already there is that decision, or already someone has thought that you have a problem, and mental health issues are very sensitive issues, and so the approach in my own opinion, I think that there is no end user involvement in it, especially people who actually people living with mental illnesses.
Yeah.
We don't want people to ask them what problem
Yeah.
they have.
Yeah.
So maybe that platform should be improved.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of more of a place that contains loads of information. And maybe that's the idea also. There's lots of different kind of mobile applications available, and maybe that's a better platform for that. So maybe you could search about these app stores and things like that about mental health. There's loads of different kind of solutions for this.
Okay, thank you, Mikael.
Thank you.
Just changing the microphone, and then we have Antti Sekki from the other side of the room, so from Laurea. Okay.
5 minutes break. So 2 minutes. 1 minute.
Technical break for 3 minutes. Okay. Just a technical.
Ei täällä mulla ei ole. Otetaan pois.
Hei, se toi Kaislalle siitä se Tai
Mä voin laittaa joku.
Tai sitten kun tee sitä PDF, se on laittaa se PDF. Kaisla saattamaan. Tai näitä mulle niin mä voin laittaa. Sun jälkeen putkeen sitten työ. Joo. Putki. Mä yritän putkittaa sen silleen, että saadaan niinku 3 aikaa. Eikö se ole sitten se niinku tutustumassa?
Joo, mutta mä en ole nähnyt, onko täällä nyt mitään tutustumissetin porukkaa tällä paikalla. Ehkä mä en tunne, onko semmoista paljon jotain. Siinä olisi katsottu, että toi Laurea on lailla opiskelijaporukka.
Kai oli tuolla takarivissä yhtälö niin, että on joo.
Kai se varmaan tunnistaa niin sanoa.
Mä yritän vetää siihen 3, koska kuitenkin nyt se on vaan tavallaan intro. Ja sitä tehdään.
Joo. Se on hyvä. Koska meillä ei ole nyt kiirettäisiä, niin voi kysyä. Ei, olisi vaikka se on näin. Joo. Jos kello on viikko. Se ei ole se jauhaa. Niin kerrotaan vielä.
Se ei voi käyttää vai semmoinen.
No niin, se on omaksettu. Niin, se on omaksettu. Se on kuule semmoinen tuossa.
Siis se on kaikki työttelee sitä.
Se on näin.
Oh, okay, I think 3 minutes, at least 3 minutes is up now, so let's continue. So please take your seats. So again, now we have Sekki from Laurea telling about something about wealth, which basically means how you can continue developing whatever you find out from here in an entrepreneurial environment, I would say, but Antti will tell you all the details.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Nice to have so many motivated people in the best summer day of Finland. So, I'm Antti Sekki, principal lecturer in Laurea, and my task is to develop student entrepreneurship in Laurea. And personally, I believe very strongly that the entrepreneurship will be the future way of work. If we see in the past, like 20 years ago, statistics told that it was maybe 1 to 2% of master students, they wanted to become entrepreneurs.
Now it's already like 20% of Finnish master students who has kind of thinking that they could work as entrepreneur in the future. And if we see US market, for example, the figure is already 40%. 40% of all employees has some kind of way to work as an entrepreneur. Of course, many of these 40% they are also as a freelancers, because that's one form of entrepreneurship. And basically my passion is to tell about how different kind of entrepreneurship can be. In my mind, all this public discussion about entrepreneurship is only going to startups. You know, high innovative companies with venture-backed startups, which is very, very small margin in the end of the day of all entrepreneurs or companies. If I see the figures in Finland, there's every year 30,000 new companies established, and 200 of these 30,000 receive venture funding. It's 0.6% of all company population. So I think that all of you should understand not only the startup sector, but also how you can work as an entrepreneur, like freelancer way, commercializing your own competence, or selling somebody else's products. For example, I have been studying this summer Amazon. Amazon is quite interesting platform where you can sell somebody's product. The platform existing, you need 1,000 to 2,000 euros to start, and some companies they are doing already turnover of 100 million. Just selling somebody else's product without any investment. So I think that I'm not focusing too much on different variety of entrepreneurship, but this is something that everybody should start thinking. Are you kind of entrepreneurial person? And which kind of entrepreneur type of format you would act if you are entrepreneur type of person? How many of you have been thinking to establish who has a company already? Good. It's almost 10%. How many of you have been thinking that entrepreneurship would be one career? So, like second half. So it's basically the 20-30%, like the statistic says. That's good. So in Laurea we have different kind of projects for entrepreneurship. And we have this Baltic Entrepreneurship Laboratories project. And this is a project for focusing more on startups and creating new companies from new innovations. This is funded by EU, Interreg Baltic, and it's almost 1 million euros project. Then we have partners, it's Laurea, then we have Norrköping Technology Park, Riga University, and Tampere Demoga. So it's kind of collaboration project with 4 or 5 partners. And we are looking for people who are passionate about entrepreneurship. And we have a concept that, first of all, we are looking for people who has own business ideas that you wanna develop forward. We are looking for people who necessarily don't have business idea, but would be willing to join for our existing team, or would be willing to develop innovation together with somebody. Or we are looking people who just have some kind of know-how, who would like to deliver that in the startup concept. So this is so-called team entrepreneurship project. So our mission is to formalize new teams and help these teams to start building business. And it goes for the smart city theme, which is quite good match what you are doing in, what was the, which city? Lapijärvi, yes. So it's quite good match because you are developing something for Lapijärvi. So we have kind of the thematical area is common. So we have agreed that when you are developing concepts for Lapijärvi, and there is I understood that there is a panel who are deciding who is the best team of best concept. So that can be the next step that you can continue developing your ideas. So we have a next bootcamp for this project is coming 18 to 20 September, so in 1 month. And this bootcamp will be in Sweden, Norrköping. And this project is offering a participation for the winning team. So the team who wins new content under this summer school, you are able to participate for our bootcamp if you wish. And our project pays all the accommodation and traveling costs. So there will be a 3 days session where we have chosen most of the participants already. So there more or less 50-60 participants who have innovations, business ideas, existing startups, or some individuals who want to contribute. We have 3 days program, and we are working like lean thinking way. So I understood that you are also kind of with lean philosophy in the summer school. So we have the same philosophy, and we are testing the ideas during three days, and in the end of the bootcamp there is a pitching session. And you are pitching your ideas for the panel, and from that the best teams get a coach. That the coach can start sparring you for developing the business idea forward. So it's kind of project which for the best teams can last even 1 year that you are getting coaching. So if the winning team has possibility to come to Norrköping, you are very willing to come. If for some reason this 18 and 20 is difficult for you, we have the next bootcamp in Tampere next spring. So we can give you place on Tampere as well. And the people or the teams who has not been chosen for the Norrköping, who don't win your internal content, you can always apply for next spring bootcamp as well. So we have tracked already like 2 bootcamps. One was in Latvia, Riga, one was here in Laurea, and there has been several teams that have been established already. It's kind of open innovation platform that first day you get known each others, you formalize team, and you start working together. And we have a web page for our project. If some of you are interested, even you don't win the content, we have different kind of tracks, basically smart city tracks, where you can apply. So we have smart societies, smart hubs, smart transportation, smart health, smart green, smart education, and then we have this open channel track as well. So somehow we are trying, because of the funding organization, it should be somehow related to smart city. area. But this open track, open channels, there is several projects which are not exactly related to smart city data. So this is kind of path for you who feel that you would like to develop your own business idea forward. So in this summer camp, summer school, you are start doing something. It's great that you have Lapinjärvi, which might be a buyer, maybe, if you have good innovations. But under this project, you can develop your business idea forward. And one very important angle in our project is that we are also trying to provide cities to kind of open gates for you, for the cities, that they could purchasing something from you. Like we have Norrköping, Riga, and we have Espoo and Vantaa as associate partners. And if there is a good innovations which are related to cities, that cities can really do things better. So under this project, we are trying that they could pilot something with you, with money or without money. But as you know, all the startups, you need the customer references. And this might be the project that you might get some customer references to scale up later on your business idea. So this is shortly what is our project. And I think the main message is that there is this award for the best teams that you can come to Norrköping in September. If Norrköping is bad time for you, you can come to Tampere. We don't have exact dates yet for the Tampere, but it's spring, maybe April, May 2018. And everybody can apply to Tampere. Norrköping is closed, but Tampere will be open. And I can send, I don't know who will be responsible of like communication to you, but I can send the Tampere application when it opens. The application period will open maybe January, February 2018. Do you have some question related to Well project? Yes.
I've never heard of this. I'm just wondering, how do you market to people? I mean, I am from Metropolia.
Yeah.
I have never heard of this, and maybe I've been a little bit ignorant, but I'm just wondering, how do you market yourself to young people? How do you scout for them, like where they are, where they come from? Now, I have a second question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How do you sell? I mean, in Finland right now, they're still immigrants,
Yeah.
and well, I don't know if say fortunately or unfortunately, some of them are not actually in these institutions because they didn't necessarily come here as students. They came here as spouses or refugees, or how do you get this to them? What's your plan? Do you already have something?
Yeah. Good questions. Well, first of all, this is Laurea project. This is not Metropolia project. So basically, our main target has been Laurea students. Because, of course, we are trying to integrate this project to our own activity. There is a lot of, inside Laurea, there is a lot of students who have been applying, and we have just limited places. So all the applicants, they were not chosen. So that's one dilemma, of course. Like we have not been active really in Metropolia because we have wanted to prepare Laurea. And this immigrant question, I think, very good question as well, because they think like entrepreneurial way. this is many times the only possibility for them to start the labor market. That's completely true. There is several other projects related to immigration. So when we are applying funding, there is in the call there might be kind of. Can you hear me? Okay. So in the call there might be kind of what the funding agent wants from the project, and in many projects there might be like sentences that this is for immigration. And if we have this kind of project, then the target group should be the immigration. Like now, I'm planning one project where the goal is related to immigration. And of course, then we have to do marketing for immigration and integrate them. But in a way, of course, we have been seen a bit selfish because we prepare Laurea students in that. But it doesn't limit anything. Everybody can apply. We have Facebook page, and we have done some Facebook marketing, and we have received quite many applications outside Laurea as well. But of course, the problem is with these projects, it starts, and then starts marketing, and then people get to know the project ends. So this is the kind of challenge that we, of course, face. But I think that, for example, Laurea, this Laurea Entrepreneur Society is a good platform to follow. We are trying to do a lot of things with them. I don't know if Metropolia, the Entrepreneur Society, work in the same way. So there is a few communication points that should share the message. Do you have some other questions?
I want to know the people who are listening and making a decision on this final presentation.
Yeah.
What are they looking for in those?
So usually there is some people from the city, municipality.
The criteria.
Well, like all the startups, the investor, they look up to the people. Many times, if you are talking for venture capital.
No, I mean, there's
Lapinjärvi, that I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, we go through that probably a bit in more detail on Monday.
Yeah.
So don't worry, you will.
Yeah. But in Bell and in general, if I'm talking about what the investors are looking for, I would say that 50% is team and the individuals. Are they able to execute the plan? The idea, I would say that 99% of the business ideas, they change. And it's the individuals who make that change. So I assume that it might be a bit similar criteria with Lapinjärvi as well.
Thank you, Antti. I think for all of you, this is a great offer. Just a minor detail. You mentioned that the trip will be provided by Wellbeing.
Yes.
But look, there are people who are not from Finland. So does it apply only for the trip from Finland to Sweden, or can it be always, for example, from Cluj in Transylvania, from Romania?
I'm afraid that the funding agent is going to say that from Finland to Sweden.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But the funding agent, they have very, very tight criteria, and that will
but
be.
anyway, the hotel costs
Yes.
will be.
Yes.
Okay. And then the coaching is utmost valuable and
Yeah.
other.
The coaching afterwards, and the coaching can happen online coaching, or you don't have to come to Finland to receive coaching.
Could you at least mention some of the projects, like physical
based on that?
That came out, that are products of.
Okay. Well, for example, one is, which is quite developing quite well, is this kind of drone plan. The name drone plan is the name of the company. So you know that the drone amount of drones is growing a lot. So there is one guy who was developing a software to do the plan, flying the drone, like doing the kind of this interpretation for the infrastructure, and it's much more cost-efficient way to do the interpretation through drones than physically. So that was like Latvian software, and they have found now a quite competent guy from Finland who is commercializing that in Finland. So that's one case. And second, which is running quite well, and actually they receive private funding, like business angel funding, is originally the Helsinki University Innovation, like treating the patients who has problems with memories. So they have there is a valid science behind, and they have been developing kind of application or service how to communicate between the patient and the nurses and the family. And that's one case, for example, which is going quite well. So there is many kind of cases. I think that in 2 boot camps there has been close to 40-50 innovations. And of course, many have died because it's just 10 to 25% survive for startups. But there is like close to 10 which are still alive, and they are still developing these codes. No more questions. Okay. Hopefully see you in the boot camp.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then this is the last speaker of today. So you have Jaakko Porokuokka from the Laurea, University of Applied Sciences.
Yeah, the first and the last.
First and last, and not the least.
Well, hopefully so.
Yeah, so talking about the introduction to service design, although I know that they are, about half of the students already know at least something about service design. But the rest of you, yes, this is basically a crash course on service design principles. And then also, actually, I would like also the Laurea students to pay attention, since last year, on the interviews, almost all Laurea students said after this, basically this sprint, that they learned it totally new way, deeper way. So, well, today is about less than 1 hour crash course on the introduction, and based on that one, you go also very deep next week on real essence of service design. Okay, but Jaakko will tell you more.
Yeah, thank you. So this is more about kind of the mindset that you need to have when you're doing service design. I'm not going to go into details into any tools or methodology of service design. I will talk to you a bit about value proposition design, because that is also something that we will be using during the sprint, and we will start using it already tomorrow, so I want you to have the fundamentals. But we will also talk more about value proposition design.
Tomorrow is Monday.
Yeah, sorry. I'll be saying that tomorrow. I guess I will be here tomorrow. And also, if I say Siilijärvi again, then you can throw these at me. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Possibly, yeah. I have also taken here, so I'll hide behind here. Okay, so fundamentals of service design. When I asked you to raise your hand, it was about half of you who raised your hand, so you have an idea. For those of you who are familiar with service design, have done some service design projects already, please do feel free to challenge me during the presentation, and also add if it feels like I'm missing something.
I usually, when I speak about service designs, I start with this particular slide. Now, these numbers that we can see here, they represent the one on the left. That represents companies. 80% of companies do something. And then on the right-hand side, we have customers, and 8% of the customers do something. These numbers come from Bain & Company's research. It was a large-scale research that they did in 2005, so it's a bit old research, but still, the point seems to be valid. This is about customer experience. 8% of all companies claim that they deliver superior customer experience. But when the researchers interviewed customers of those companies, only 8% of these people consider that they are actually receiving suffering customer experience. So companies and organizations and customers, they are on entirely different page on what the service experience is actually like. And there's a number of different reasons for this. For example, when we start talking about public sector services and stuff like that, there might be a gap in, for example, identifying what are the customers actually needing. There might be a high level of bureaucracy that limits the actual service provider from delivering good service. In big companies, there might be kind of a gap in strategy and people who are actually giving service. More often than not, when you look at small companies, they are actually able to deliver better service for their customers than large ones. In particular, small companies that have started a business that serves people that are similar to their founders themselves. It's really easy to kind of get kind of stuck with your own idea of what is important for the customers, or get stuck with your product. I've seen a lot of technology companies that they have some really nice piece of technology that they fall in love with, but they don't really care what how the customer experiences it. It's their gadget, they like their gadget, and they want to build business around this gadget. I mean, well, Catwalk is actually a nice one. That's a bad example. But many companies, they have some sort of tech, they fall in love with it, and they don't anymore care about the customers themselves. Another reason is that when organizations get larger, the problem is that every single person has a different view on what the customers actually appreciate, and they are incapable of delivering kind of similar service from time to time. And also people deliver service based on their own kind of mindset of this is what the people actually want. 3 years ago, I was working on a project that the object was basically it was to develop new kinds of learning environments for master's degree students in universities of applied sciences. So that was for master's degree students, people who are doing their masters. They are about 30 years old, they are busy at work, they have children, etc., etc. And my initial assumption was that we want to deliver some electronic learning environments, online learning environments, just for the sake that people could study whenever they feel like it. So it would be free of time, it would be free of place, and so forth. So that's what I started building upon. But we started interviewing master's degree students, we interviewed quite a lot, tens of students, and pretty quickly it became evident that those environments that are free from place and time, they are useless for those students. The reason for this being the fact that if they get to decide themselves, they will push the studying further and further and further on the weekend. They'll just wait, I will do my studying at some point. It becomes really difficult. And many people end up not studying at all if it's only up to them. But when the learning environment, for example, just traditional lecturing, they have a place and time where they can go there. They can actually get that time free from their work, free from the family, and they enjoy coming in live to the campus itself. So in that case, my initial assumption was completely wrong. If I started executing based on that, it would have gone horribly wrong. So when we start designing new services, we want to design them in a sense that they integrate with people's daily lives. We need to understand our customers, our users, what are their problems, what are their pains, what are their gains, and so forth. And to do that, we really need to start meeting those people and talk with them to understand what they are all about. So I did love the speech from Mayor Heikka of Lapinjärvi, and when she mentioned this kind of nightmare situation where some person is taking care of them and it's kind of just a tedious situation for them. It's difficult for me to kind of imagine what is the life of a person with memory disorders, but by the end of the next week I will surely be much wiser about that. Now, one of the issues that often comes up is that people start designing services and they pay attention to technical stuff. what is the service going to kind of achieve, and how is it going to work, and stuff like that. What we need to remember when we design services for humans is that humans they're really weird. They really are. They're really individual. They are far from rational. They're really irrational. And they are emotional. They have their own internal logics that don't align with our logics. We need to somehow understand where people are coming from. What is their background? What is their internal logic and so forth, and what kind of drives them? We can create a service concept that is really good on paper. But if we fail to kind of deliver that, in a sense that it makes sense to the actual users, it delights them, they feel good about using the service is going to fail. So we need to understand people's lives really well, and for that we need what is called empathy in service design. Now, empathy does not mean the same thing as compassion. In Finnish language, it's kind of a myötätunto, that's compassion, and empathy is empathy. Empathy means that we need to be able to see the world through the eyes of the customer. If there's one thing that you remember from this presentation, which is also what I'm kind of expecting, is the last session Friday, it would be this one. You need to see the world through the customer's eyes and build your service, set your stage, build your storyline upon what the customer actually sees. And I'm going to be highlighting this again and again as I go, but that's really the kind of the cornerstone of service design. See the world through the customer's eyes. And when I say that it's not the same thing as compassion, I mean that we don't really need to have strong emotions to our service users. So say, for example, I need to design a new service for factory workers or something like that. I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to build any sort of a deep level emotional connection with them. But I will be able to kind of model out their worldview, how they think, what is important for them, and so forth. That's what service design is all about. We understand the people and we kind of tailor our service provision based on that insight that we have. And I talked about making assumptions earlier on. In service design, we do a lot of customer research. And by research, I mean that we really need to talk to people, get some second-hand information, and based on that, make our decisions. We don't want to start making our decisions based on those assumptions that I mentioned earlier. My assumption was that people want these e-learning environments. They really didn't. If I started building upon that kind of assumption that I have, it wouldn't have been design. It would have been guesswork, basically. So design is based on something, based on understanding customers. Guesswork is just guesswork. Don't do guesswork during the sprint. In service design, oftentimes we interview people, but there is something that we don't ask them. We don't start asking them, hey, what kind of service would be good for you? Because they would not have the answer for that particular question. Now here's a famous quote. It is often said that this is by Henry Ford. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said better horses. Now, I've actually done some research on this. Henry Ford never said that. It was some random professor that works at MIT. But it's a catchy story with Henry Ford there, so I'll just keep Henry Ford in there. People say they want better horses. That's because people can't really imagine the services that would be perfect for them. At least based on my experience and some research as well. We need to start digging deep into our customer insight that we get. And from there, start extracting things like what are these people's problems that they are facing, what is driving them, what is motivating them, what is frustrating them, and so forth. And upon that, we can start building early stages of service, early service prototypes, service stories, and evaluate them and see if our research is there any point to our research. And this brings us to service design. I haven't really talked about that yet at this point. About half of you raise your hands when I ask you to have any kind of idea what service design is. Can anyone give me a definition of what is service design? Please do. Very good answer. So it's a process that aims to improve customer experience across different platforms. Any other definitions? No other definitions here. Well, if I went on a little bit further, we would have gotten some additional definitions, but it has often been recognized that service design is notoriously difficult to kind of define in one sentence. There are like 20 different definitions. There are, however, quite a few kind of common things that go through all these definitions, and I have listed some here. So, there we go. Service design is customer-centric. So whenever we start designing a service, it is based on customer insight. It is based on customer needs. Now, what else can a service be but customer-centric? Well, it can be, for example, it can be product-centric. We have this fantastic product, we're going to develop it, regardless of the customers. It can be kind of organizational-centric. We have our organization, we have our proposition that we're going to offer to the customers, take it or leave it, and we'll market it, we'll push it to them. It can be driven by legislation, for example. Municipalities have the duty to do certain things within the municipality, and that can be kind of a key driver. But in service design, we always focus on the customer. Now, customer-centric, or we might even be what is called customer-driven. In Lapinjärvi logo, it mentions that it's a customer-driven municipality. Now, being customer-driven means that customers actually have a say on how services are provided. Customer centricity means that at least, by the very least, we take into account what the customers want, what they say, and build our service on that. Now, service design is also, it is interdisciplinary. So we take people from different disciplines, and we build services together with them. Now in Sprint, we are in a good position. We have people who have very, very different backgrounds. We have engineers here, we have nurses, we have business people, we have all sorts of different kinds of people. We even have a security manager over here. So we have very different backgrounds, almost, and that's a good thing. It enables us to build new kinds of ideas that we could not see by ourselves or only among our peers. Now this is easy. We take similar people. We take, for example, we take a group of, I don't know, we take some programmers and some engineers, some business people and some social services, healthcare people. They work really well together. It's easy for them. They move along fast, they think alike, they all get the same ideas and then they build upon those ideas. But the outcome is often, it's a bit narrow. It can be narrow in many means. I've seen a lot of different kinds of service propositions that they don't have any business model because people don't have any business experience. Or people have built something really fancy technically speaking, but nobody really gets it. Nobody really understands what it is. Business people might build something that doesn't have any kind of feasible way of actually producing the service, or it only works on paper. It doesn't take into account people's emotions and the fact that the service needs to somehow make the people feel secure. Or the solution might just be too narrow. So it is really easy to work with people who think like yourself. It is really difficult to work with interdisciplinary groups, multicultural groups and so forth. But while it is tedious, it really works really well. We saw that last year as well. And you will get some results tomorrow also. But the solutions that come up from multidisciplinary teams, they are more holistic in any way. They take into account different points of view. This is also something that you need to remember during the spring when we go ahead, is that it's going to be difficult. Last year, when we did the summer school, there were two teams that I actually split up. They didn't end up working. Those teams their weekends were way too different and people weren't willing to kind of give up their own viewpoints. I'm looking if there are any people from last year, there was this one particular guy that was so unable to work with any other people that we actually needed to first take him from his group and put him into another project. And then from that project, we needed to send him to basement to do some soldiering and programming because he just didn't see the point from the other groups. I hope that this year we won't see any of that happening. But also, if there are such situations, then just let us know. We will see. We will find you a better team if that's the case. In any way, we want to work in teams that really have various viewpoints. It's more difficult, I promise you, but the outcome will be better. I promise you that as well. Okay, so about the process. I already mentioned the process in the introduction, so I will just go through a couple of different main points about this. So this is the service innovation process, and as you can see, it forms from these diamond models, these rectangles that are standing on their side, and there is a meaning to that particular shape. In design, we oftentimes do something called diverging, and after that, converging. So, for example, in math and understand phase, we will start looking for different kinds of problems, and we will find a variety of different problems. We are not looking for one, we are looking for many. So that's the divergence. As you can see, it kind of opens up the shape. And then from there, and the number of problems that we have discovered, we start focusing on one or two that appear to be problems worth solving. So that's the divergent phase again. And then when we go to ideation, we come up with a variety of different ideas, and then we pick a couple of ideas and we formulate them into concept. Last year, one of the teams that I was working with came up with, what was it, something like 52 different kinds of ideas for the one single problem that they had in their mind. So we always do this. We explore first, we do a little bit of thinking, and then we decide. We are not going from one point to second point to third point to fourth point. Instead, we are exploring all the time. And we are willing also to go back and forth in the process. The way that I personally kind of understand design process is that it has two major parts. One of them would be designing the right thing. So we need to understand people, we need to understand what kind of solution would make their lives better. That's the first stage. Once we understand the users, we know how to make them, what would make their life better, we understand what the concept might be. Then it comes to actually implementing the solution in a way that people will actually approve it. So for example, if you remember, in Helsinki there's been quite a lot of babble about the fact that in home care, senior citizens need to order their food using something like WhatsApp, something like that. So there's a kind of good concept in there. People are able to order in their food electronically. It kind of makes things more efficient. But then the kind of execution. You give a senior citizen a smartphone, there's your WhatsApp thing, you need to pay through this. That doesn't really work. So it's not enough that we have a good idea of what we might do. We need to also execute our idea properly for it to kind of make its way through and become successful. I mentioned earlier that service design is iterative. So if you look at this model, it's straightforward. We have these stages that we are going to go through, and in the end we have a golden nugget or something. But in reality, it looks like this. And this particular picture, it's not my invention. This is I believe, by Tim Brown. Tim Brown is the CEO of a company called IDEO, and he introduced this idea of design wiggle in his book, Change by Design, if I remember correctly. And what this illustrates is the fact that design process is really messy. It's really iterative, and this, in my opinion, this describes the digital well-being sprint way better than straight linear model. How you should understand this is by the way that, say that we have been working, it's Wednesday. We have been working, and on Wednesday we have some idea. We really like the idea. And then we start building the prototype. And it turns out that the prototype doesn't actually, nobody wants to use this. We were wrong about something. At that point, we jump back in the process to get some more information. Why isn't this working? Where did our research go wrong? Or alternatively, you might start your process by having a great idea, and you start prototyping it immediately on Monday. Not tomorrow, but Monday. You start prototyping it immediately and use it as kind of a backbone for your research interviews and display your solution. Hey, we have this idea, might this work? And learn from there. And then you might skip ahead and so forth. So it's not a linear process, it's an iterative. And when something doesn't work, we go back, we go forth, we go back, we go forth. So not a linear process, that's also something that you might want to remember during the sprint. To make things more kind of understandable, instead of kind of the process features, this is how I perceive, and we talked about with Kaisla, is this kind of the right way how it's going to go, and she approved that it would be. So first we define the scope broadly, and that's already been done. We have our assignment, we are going to build new services that make Lapinjärvi memory-friendly community. Next up, we will get to know our target audience, people who have some memory conditions. Then from there, we define one problem that we have identified from those people. So it's a human-centered approach. We don't go solution first, we search for problems that are not solved. Once we identify that, we search for solutions and multiple possible solutions. Service design is co-creative. So when we have that possibility, we want to, for example, invite our customers, our users, for the ideation sessions with us. We want to get their input in as fast as possible. We want to fail as fast as possible. We don't want to build our solution to the point where it's almost finished, just to get to know that, hey, this doesn't work. We want to get the customers involved as soon as possible, and potentially even at the ideation phase. When we have selected our idea that we are going to work on, we will build a prototype. And we do that quickly as well. We don't want to spend days or weeks, or in this case, we don't want to spend even many hours working on our prototype. We want to prototype quickly. With rapid prototypes, we are going to learn again more and more about the customers. And remember this. The iteration takes place all the time. When we have our idea and we expose it to the people, they give us more information. So it's not about learning about the users only during the first stage, but constantly throughout the process. What? Well, I might just throw that one there as well. When we do ideation, and when we start building our concepts, this is really important. You need to be willing to kill your darlings. When we come up with good ideas, they are really difficult to let go. And hanging on to a dead horse can really bring your team to a complete stall. You won't be able to get anywhere. You have a great idea, you fall in love with it, but the users hate it. Kill it. Purge it with fire, whatever. You need to be able to let go of your ideas, your conceptions, and your initial ideas of what might be a good solution. If it doesn't work for customers, then just kill it. And I've been doing this. This is difficult. This really is. I've been doing this tens of times. It has been necessary for me to learn this. During this one hackathon, we were building new banking services, and I was going to go with a solution that is aimed at small companies, small entrepreneurs. And the rest of the team wanted to build something like, what was it? It was a social investment service for common funds, something like that. I didn't like the idea. But then again, the 5 people in my team, aside myself, they seemed to be really excited about that solution. They wanted to build it. So at that point, I needed to just kill my darling. I had the idea. I still think it would have been brilliant, but it would have brought the team to a stall. So don't be a part of it. Let your team go on. If you don't approve with everything, you can still proceed with your team. And that is very much required, as we only have 1 week to work. Yeah. That's about it in terms of service design. I still have about 10 minutes time, so I will spend it on value proposition design. But do you feel that I'm missing something vital when it comes to kind of service design philosophy and background? We will be working on service design the whole week next week, and we will cover a lot more. But the time is limited here, so I need to skip some points. Anything? Nothing. Let's move on to something called value proposition design. How many of you have heard of value proposition design? 7 people. Okay. Value proposition design is one method of framing customer insights into a shareable format. You will have your team, and each one of you, as I mentioned, you have your own idea of who your customer is, what are their problems that you're actually solving. This is one method of framing how you kind of see your customers and building kind of a common target to whom you will be building that service proposition to. Again, you need to see the world through the customer eyes. If there's one thing that you're going to remember this. I've shown this slide for I think 6 times at this point, and I will show it again. This is a way of seeing the world through the customer's eyes. So value proposition design canvas it's a big sheet of paper that you will get tomorrow. And what it has 2 sides. On the right hand side, we have the customer profile. On the left hand side, we have our solution that's going to tackle the problems that we describe on the right hand side. So as you can see, it has 3 functions. One of them being customer journeys. Customer job refers to what are the customers actually, the users, what are they trying to get done in their lives, what are they trying to get done in their daily lives. Pains are related to customer jobs. These are kind of frictions and desperations related to the job that they're trying to get done, and gains are again something that kind of they get pleasure out of, they feel like this is a good thing and so forth. So this is only for the customer. This does not have nothing to do with your actual offering yet. So it works a bit like this. You take your customers' jobs, what they have, what are they trying to do. So this is a business-based tool. So we are going to work with municipalities, we are going to work with people who don't necessarily pay for the actual service, so we might need to do a bit of variations, but in my opinion this works just as well when there's not money involved. So one thing is functional jobs. These are kind of straightforward things. What are people trying to get done? Oftentimes when we talk about different businesses that we are going to design, new, for example, electronic services, stuff like that, there is some particular need that we aim our solution to. But in this case, we just try to describe what are the people trying to do, and these are oftentimes people with memory disorders, they aren't anymore working, so it's more about what are they trying to get done in their kind of daily lives. But there's also social and personal aspect to this. For example, in business world, we want to, for example, appear knowledgeable, we want to gain status, we want to look good in front of our employer, or something like that. But when it comes to people with memory disorders, this is a bit different. It might be just feel confident going outside, or something like that. I'm not going to give you too much input on this because I don't want to manipulate you in any way, but you need to consider also that people have those social insecurities, they have their internal world, and that is also something that you need to grow through. And then there's personal. For example, getting into a certain mood, feeling secure about yourself, being consent, stuff like that. So that's the first one, that's customer jobs. Next one would be pains. What is related to the customer jobs? What might be a negative outcome, what might be a problem, what's a kind of just any pain points that you can identify. And those are also something that you are going to later on be building painkillers for. Some of them, not all of them. And also here, it's not only about physical stuff, there's also always the emotional and psychological stuff in there as well. Finally, on this side, we have gains. So, 3 different types of gains. We have required gains. Required refers to things that these need to be in there for the service kind of even to exist. If I'm building an email service, it must have the ability to receive and send the emails. That's the minimum kind of level. That's the minimum kind of level, required. Without these, the service would be useless. Then we have expected things. These are not necessarily kind of at the core in a sense as the required gains are, but these are nevertheless something that the customers would be expecting. And then we have desired gains. Oftentimes, when we think of services, it's about the little things that make certain services stand out from the bunch. So, if I go to, say, for example, if I go to hotels or something like that, it might be they're kind of on the same level, but there are these little things that delight me in some particular hotel that might kind of lift that hotel above the others. There's one hotel that uses robots. They use these little robots that they send from the reception. For example, if someone needs a toothbrush or something, the robot comes and brings that thing for them. And for myself, now I do research on service robots, I kind of like them, I'm a technology geek. So if that robot turns up on the door, then that's a delight for me. It's a bonus. But those are also oftentimes some things that people forget in a service. What is going to delight people? So remember also those desire gains. Not only the essentials, of course when we do this kind of lean approach, we focus on the essentials, but think about it, if you can insert some kind of these delightful little things in there, then please do. That makes the service stand out. This is just an example, and this is actually quite a bad example. This is from a workshop that I did, and it has to do with parents and children and daycare. And the thing is that parents need to report to the daycare when their children are not going to be there, when they're going to be on holiday or stuff like that. And it's a bit of a pain indeed. But to be honest, I have children, and we started building this thing. It's usually managed by just doing this massive amount of paperwork and stuff like that. So building up on that, we started identifying, so what are the possible kind of customer jobs here for the parents? So it's just remembering the annual calendar time, keeping up with the situation, making the entries to the daycare center, planning the access grid, and also stuff like that. And as you can see, these are on accesses. The more vital ones, the more critical ones are higher up, and the more mundane ones, they are there at the bottom. So these are kind of the jobs that we are going to help them deal with. On the left-hand side, we have pains. And you can see the nature of the pains. So there's, at the extreme, when people don't remember the annual calendar altogether, they have difficulty making the entries, and they make the entries later, stuff like that. On the more moderate side, one of the problems that people have is that when they don't remember to make the announcements, the daycare person was giving a bad eye. They're just being really rude and kind of not polite at all towards them when they forget to do something. And then at the top we have gains. People get sensation of control, they don't get sense of guilt, they get social acceptance, etc., etc. So that's kind of mapping out what we want to provide the users. And we don't want to give the users all of this. We want to focus on a couple of the most important ones. Generally speaking, there is no service that is going to provide everyone with everything. That just doesn't exist. Focus on some key points in your service that you can identify when you are developing Järvi. Focus on some particular things that people have that they would like to make better, that they would like to improve their life regarding, and focus on those. Oh wow, I didn't know there was an effect. And then, when we start building our solution, we can use similar kind of logic. So, we have some painkillers there. So we have identified pains. Now, we can kill the pains by making, for example, 24/7 online entries available instead of paperwork stuff that they're doing at the moment. Checking the situation whenever, because one of the main concerns was that they are unaware what's the situation. So we have a couple, for example. We have the husband and the wife, and they're both wondering, has the other one actually reported their absences or not? So they want to be on top of the situation. Kind of the game created the time allocation independence. It's not always a good thing. It's not automatically a good thing, but in this case it was. The thing needs to be mobile friendly. That's kind of an essential gain there. And we wanted to integrate with Outlook and Google Apps so that people actually manage their calendars. So it's just about kind of identifying which are kind of things from your customer profile that you want to tackle using your service. What are the things that you can actually tackle? You can't take everything up, but there are certain things that you can pick. You can start designing solutions for, and this is kind of your value proposition. This is not yet a prototype, this is not yet a concept. But this is kind of what it all builds upon. You understand your customer's world, and you build something that turns their lives better. That's what we do with value proposition design. So you want to go for match. Problems versus solutions. If you can find a match, then you might be on something. You might be on the business at some point. Again, one thing you need to remember. What is the one thing that you need to remember from this lecture? Yeah. You need to see the world through your customer's eyes. That's my main point here, all through. When we start the sprint, get to know the customers, understand what they see, understand the process that they're going to go through, pick it into smaller parts and kind of start forming it. What's the situation now and how you can make it better. You don't have to make their lives perfect. You need to make it better to a degree, and you need to understand what is the process that they are in and how you can make it better. Yeah, I still have a minute for questions.
Thank you, Jaakko. So now, questions, comments.
If you have any, we have all week next week as well. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, so that was, perfect presentation then. So thank you, Jaakko. Okay, now let's see. We have the next one. So basically now sit down tight. We will have someone to tell you what happens next, but let's see. Okay, I'll have to go and fetch someone who is going to tell us also this. Okay, there you go. Stage is yours, so. Just give me 1 minute, I will go and stop recording.
That's something that